Training methods.
Yep.
Today we're going to discuss the multitudes of training methods that will be thrown at you when you want to try a new program, or if you're getting in for the first time, if you've been doing something for a long period of time and you're looking for a change up. Generally what happens is, because of the World Wide Web and obviously the money that's behind the fitness industry, if you go and find anybody who relates themselves as a guru, right now, I call them gurus, but in reality, it's people who are, anyone who screams at you and tells you that their way is the only way, walk the other way.
Yeah.
Right, because anytime that I see a trainer, someone who's talking about a type of diet, a training method, how to do this, how to do that, is they're only talking from perspective. You would get higher level experts who may be referencing scientific methodology where they've done certain tests. A good example is they did a study where they took two groups of men. The one group spent 2 weeks just thinking about training. The other group literally went and did the training. And at the end of the study, the group that thought about training had as much muscle growth as the group that actually did the training. Now, again, this is a controlled study of, let's call it 50 people, right? If you're going to sit at home and say, well, I'm just going to think about training, you're probably not going to get what you want out of it. Mm-hmm. So my point being is there's a lot of good information and there's a lot of, I wouldn't say there's no such thing as bad information, but you have to take everything you look at on the internet with a grain of salt. Even when you're speaking to someone in person, you need to understand that they're giving you a perspective of what their experience is, of how they've maybe achieved something, what they've learned, what they've studied.
We're in the information era. So there's YouTube, Google, Grok, AI tools. Like there's so much like at your fingertips.
Yeah, and the confusion though is there's so much information, and you know, just because someone's an influencer doesn't mean they're right.
Yeah,
doesn't mean it's right for you. They're an influencer, and to a large degree, I'll even go as far as to say is when someone's job is influencing, a big part of that might be bullshitting you. Right, people, you know, there are people in this world that can sell you things that don't really work. Yeah, and you've got to be careful of who you're taking your information from. So I always state, as you know, we've done through training, is kind of research and kind of study what really works for you. But when it comes down to training, there's multiple different ways that you can approach your training. Now, the first thing that I would say is before you approach your training, let's look at the first thing. What's your level? Yeah. Right. Are you now coming off maybe a 2 or 3 year hiatus when you haven't really trained consistently, that your conditioning is not where it needs to be? Right. Take that in consideration. Injuries and age. Take that into consideration. Health issues, chronic health issues. Take that into consideration. And then build your program accordingly. But be very careful of finding the information and really try and find something that resonates with you, not motivates you, because motivation is fickle. Yeah. Every single video you watch of pro bodybuilders or high-level people, those videos are made for motivation. Right.
Yeah, I got to talk on that. Well, first thing I would say is don't compare yourself to others. Just you do you, build on you, it's you versus you, right? But the motivational videos and the that's a hot button for me, because we see countless people talk about, oh, dude, I'm like in the zone. I'm going to do whatever.
I'm going to do this today and I'm going to smash that weight and get this done.
That lasts a week.
But the thing is, let's go a little bit further, right? Because other than...
Well, I was going to make a point.
It's a good point. But other than that is, Kai Green is a good example. Kai Green, old school bodybuilder, was... I think he came highest, was second in the Miss Olympia at the time that Phil Heath was competing. He's an amazing bodybuilder, right? Guy looks phenomenal. And he would explain that what happened, they used to call him the Predator because he had these long dreadlocks that hanged at the back, right? Okay. Now, he would explain that the training you see him do in the training videos or photo shoots is not the same training as he would be doing on a day-to-day basis. Right. So when you have a look at an influencer online, pack on 500 pounds on bench press, right? There's two things you have to ask yourself. One, is it really 500 pounds on the bench press? That's Kai Green. Yeah, amazing bodybuilder. Is it 500 pounds on the bench press? And is this their daily training routine? Because my experience is, you know, generally what you see on the internet, if we trusted the internet in regards to statistics, right? How many people do you think on average can bench 225 pounds in an average gym?
Well, isn't it like 1% of people can bench press 225 pounds? At least that's what I've always heard.
Right. But you can actually check these metrics. So it's a very small percentage, and I think it's under like 2 or 3% that can actually bench that.
Yeah, it's
right
not
now, 225 pounds is not the heaviest weight, right? But yet your ratio is so small. But if I had to believe what's on Instagram, according to Instagram, every 18-year-old can bench 405 pounds.
Yeah.
But it's not the truth.
Yeah.
Because it's influencing. It's showing you something that I can't verify is real.
Yeah.
I can't verify that those guys are actually lifting real weights. I can't verify the reps. I can't verify how they're being spotted. And I shouldn't have to. So my point is, regardless of what you see, you need to research a little bit deeper. And training regimes should start with where you are.
Yeah, let me go back to motivation a little bit, because that's something that I've spent a lot of time with, like just understanding the brain and human element of things. And I think everyone has this desire to be healthy and fit. Yeah. I genuinely believe that. Everyone has a desire to do it. But I think most people get confused with the idea that, well, it's motivated. Like us, we're motivated. That's why we're in shape. Well, yeah, to a certain degree, we're motivated because we want better. We want to continue to get better. And it's motivating when you get a hard workout in and you finish it, right? However, there's days that, like, I mean, I can't say this has happened to me for a little bit, but like, you don't want to do something, but you do it anyway.
That's discipline.
That's discipline.
Because
but the videos on YouTube and all this stuff, and I'm guilty of watching these things and getting pumped up and fired up from them. But there's so many like cuts and videos about mental motivation and things like that. But like, that's like, the reality is the real work happens. There's nobody in the background screaming and yelling, go, or whatever. You're just doing it.
It's even further to that is you can do everything that you watch in these videos. You can get up at 4 a.m. You can, do breath work, meditation, eat the right breakfast, go train, come back. You can do all of those things. You can follow the regime. But at some point, if you don't actually put the work in to make things happen, right, you're superficially following a process. So motivation has its rounds. There's nothing wrong with motivation.
Well, like an example could be, like, I get up every morning and I ice bath, I meditate, I read a book, I eat the right meal, but I never go to the gym.
Well, besides that, you could even do all of that and go to the gym and eat correctly and run all of that and have zero money in your bank account. Because that is just a precursor to putting the work in every other space.
Yeah, there's so much to it.
There's more to it, right? It's you still have to sit down and do the work. But when it comes to workout programs and how to actually start in the gym, there's 1,000 different ways that people are going to tell you what to do and how to do it. My goal is to guide people to, first of all, see where you are realistically. If you were someone who was in great shape when they were younger, you are not that person anymore.
Yep.
Right. It does mean that you'll have an advantage in how quickly your muscle actually catches up, because you've created a precedent that there's muscle memory that kicks in. But realistically, where are you right now? So when you go back into the gym, you have to let go of the ego. You have to start consistently. The amount of people I've seen that start at the gym, go back, and then just try and kill themselves for 2 days and then don't train again because they're so sore they hurt themselves. You have to really take a step at a time and find programs that work, and don't be scared to change up.
When I started back, I put a 20-pound vest on me and walked for 20 minutes. And I beat myself up because that was all I was doing. Yeah, but that's what I did to start.
But that got you started.
100%.
And that's the thing, is you have to do something.
I did something every single day.
And it's what that thing is. You need to, first of all, be consistent. Dorian Yates talks about his training regime, right? So Dorian Yates, 6-time Mr. Olympia. When he was doing the Mr. Olympia, he was so consistent in what he was doing, top, down, bottom, that he changed nothing. If something worked for him, he kept it. So why do people feel that they have to alter their programs? There's 2 reasons. The first reason is, I start an exercise program, I don't see the results I want quick enough. It's not working, I change, right? The second reason they do is maybe they do see some results, but they get bored with the monotony of doing the same thing over and over again. Great. if it's the second one, yeah, sure, change your program up, but consistency is key. Right? You'd hear these key words that they throw out when it comes to bodybuilding. Your muscle gets used to it. No, it doesn't. It doesn't get used to it. Your muscle does not get used to hypertrophy and overstimulating the muscle. Doesn't matter if it's a bench press. If you're consistently adding weight, your body will respond.
Yeah.
Right. And this is a precursor to how Dorian Yates puts it. He also his regime was, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to do minimal sets at maximum weight to failure. And that worked very well for him to get him to compete and win the Mr. Olympia 6 times.
Yeah.
However, as you age, that may become detrimental to you, because in doing something like that is you're not just pushing your muscle to absolute failure, you're also pushing your tendons, your joints, and your ligaments. Your ligaments and joints at some point will not be able to handle the load, and you will start getting injuries. Dorian Yates' last Mr. Olympia, he competed with a torn bicep.
Did he really?
He did.
Wow.
Again, the testament and what we're trying to dive out with this podcast is, when you choose a training program, you have to take a little bit of time to research and see. There are so many ones that could work for you.
Yeah.
We always, in our personal philosophy, right? I've done almost every type of training variation you can speak of. The one that's given me the highest return on investment with the least amount of injuries is high intensity, high rep with maximum weights. Why has that given me the best? One, it minimizes the chance of injury.
Yeah.
If I can bench 405 pounds, but I can only do 6 reps, do I risk the 6 reps of 405 pounds, risking the injury that comes with it? Now, if I take that same philosophy and I go, well, why don't I take the 404 pounds and I go down to 225 pounds? And now I try and get 25 reps. Once I comfortably hit 25 reps, I add 5 pounds aside, 235 pounds. And then I try and get 25 reps again. As long as I'm hitting such a high rep ratio, my body is going to, 1, hit maximum muscle failure. I'm going to stimulate the muscle to its maximum degree, but I'm never going to load it so heavy that my chance of risking, it's not that I say I can't get injured, but my risk of injury dramatically decreases. Yeah. What I've also found is, if you minimize rest times, now this is a controversial issue, because it'll be said as, well, you need to rest. If you train with powerlifters, they'll rest 5 to 10 minutes between sets. Right? That's fine. That works for them. What their goal set is, they're trying to rest as much as possible to lift as much as possible on the next set. Great. If you're doing bodybuilding, same thing applies. However, there's a certain point where you have to now say, the idea of, I just want to continuously gain muscle. If this was a real statement, the amount of times that I've heard someone go to the gym and you start with 45 pounds bench and you just add 5 pounds a week. You just keep adding it. Okay, so where do I stop at? 1 million pounds? There's a point where I'm gonna have it's not as if everybody can just do that, and eventually you're gonna break a world record.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. There's gonna come a point in lifting in that style that you're gonna hit a segue where, okay, this weight I cannot go heavier.
Right.
If that was true, we would see every single powerlifting record get broken every single year, because people will just keep loading. But at some point, your muscle can only go so far. Your body can only go so far. Your ligaments, your joints, all of those things take a hit. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to find the best combination that gives me the most of my workout in the shortest possible time with the most possible effort, so I get the best results out. Mike Mensa, who was a bodybuilder from the 70s, Mike Mensa had a program where he trained 2 days a week. He'd get to a point where he'd train 1 day a week. He'd do 1 to 2 sets. He'd do it at absolutely the heaviest weight to failure. Mike Mensa looked fantastic. Mike Mensa, in my opinion, should have won in the Mr. Olympia. We're not talking about a mediocre bodybuilder. We're talking about a really, really well-defined guy. But his training methodology worked for him, and it can transfer to other people, but it doesn't work for everybody.
Let me ask you a question on this. Is just I don't really get into bodybuilding like most people have. I respect it. That's an opinion that's recently come about, I would say, over the past year. Anyway, are they healthy bodybuilders?
It depends on the bodybuilder. So you need to separate bodybuilding as a something you do versus bodybuilding as a sport, or in my case, it's a beauty contest, right? bodybuilding, when you are trying to get on a stage and competing against other people, and this is through time and effort, the same as every other sport. You will do everything you possibly can to be the best you can. As in every other sport, you will have performance-enhancing drugs, you'll have all sorts of methods that you use. Okay, so let's move away from bodybuilding. Is UFC a healthy sport?
I would say the trauma associated with that makes them at risk for a greater injury than the average.
Fair enough. Now take the trauma out of it. Is it a healthy sport?
I would say, yeah.
Okay. Except the fact that some of those fighters are dehydrating themselves so severely
to make weight. Yeah, that's a good point.
So my point is, it depends on the perspective of how you look at the sport.
Yeah, wrestling does that too. Like
wrestling, you drop weight, right? So
I guess my reason for bringing that up is, in my eyes, a lot like the people listening to us are trying to get healthy, get off the horse of, not working out and be, better versions of themselves. And I don't necessarily see like the average listener wanting to be a bodybuilder, more so just get healthy.
I'd separate that into two different classes, right? If you are going to the gym to improve your body, you are a bodybuilder. Right.
Agreed.
However, we've seen bodybuilding as the sport with these grossly outgrown muscles and these guys that pose in the gym. That's a part of it.
Yeah, the owner of Metroflex said that. It caught my attention where I never really looked at it that way. Like if you're going to a gym and you're training, you're doing something physical with weights, you're a bodybuilder.
Right, because that's what you're doing. You're trying to build
your body to be better.
Yeah. So you have to separate yourself from the people whose action of going to the gym and doing that is an extreme version. Bodybuilding competitions are an extreme version.
It's a sport versus,
but no different to someone who decides to go and compete in mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
No different to someone who decides to do boxing. No different to someone who decides to go football. All of those are extreme versions of a sport that hold their own injuries. So bodybuilding sits in there, but would I say bodybuilding's unhealthy? No, but if I'd say the average guy who goes and competes, and I'm talking average, I'm not talking pro level, the average person going to a bodybuilding contest, in order to drop their body fat to where they need to be, in order to get on that stage, in order to be competitive, they are going to do some things that are the extreme of what a body can go through.
Right.
That in itself for that day is not healthy. Can you compete in bodybuilding for an entire career and be healthy? Of course you can. We have Arnold Schwarzenegger in his 70s now.
Yeah. So I guess what kind of came into my head was like I think the Arnold era, those guys were more of a realistic weight than the most, like, what was it, like Jay Cutler era and Ronnie Coleman, and then now even Derek Lunsford. What's
the surprising thing about that, right? Is you'd think to yourself that the compounds, the science and the technology in regards to performance steroids they could take is way out. It's actually not. There's maybe one or two compounds we have today, right, that can actually get you to that level versus to what they have there. The real changes have been in diet, exercise, rest, right? The same compounds, right? Ronnie Coleman said this on the Joe Rogan interview. Compounds are the same. Testosterone, decadurabolin, Dynabols. Baseline.
Well, I guess, like, I don't know anything about that stuff, but for me, it's like you could see weight-wise the size of those guys. They were larger than life. They were larger than normal, right? So to me, it's like if you're carrying, like, the strongman, what's his name? Eddie Hall.
Yeah.
That guy's a freak of nature, and he would put that extra weight on to help him with his lifts. Is he, like, in my eyes, like a guy like him, even Brian Shaw, like the big, like, you know who Brian Shaw is, right? The big guy. Like, those dudes are ginormous people. Will they live a long, healthy life? I don't know. I'm just, like, for me, and that's their life to figure out, but it's like, and a guy like Eddie Hall, like, you see these massive swings in weight on him. Like, can he actually live a long, healthy life based on what he's had to do for his career?
Well, the thing is, Eddie Hall was smart enough to realize that what he was doing
was bad for him.
Was bad. And he said, like, he's going to win one strongman and he's done. Yeah. And I mean, when he was at his peak of strongman, he was just over 400 pounds. Yeah. And he walks around now at about 340, 350. Right. So he's a lot healthier than he was.
He's tall, right? I think he's like
6'3". He's only 6'3".
6'3", still not short.
Compared to the other guys, you must know.
Brian Shaw's like 6'10".
Exactly. Yeah. But Brian Shaw, would I say he's healthier? Probably because his weight is more natural.
He looks more normal.
Right, because that's kind of that's the natural weight for what he does. It would be more natural. And it's the same for Thor, right?
Thor, yeah.
But the reality of all of those is those guys are at the extreme level of what we're going to do. So we're going to bring that all back to where we are, and we're talking about us as average guys who want to have a good physique, be healthy, be functional, be able to move around, and be able to utilize that in training to get us to where we want to go. And you can watch a guy like Eddie Hall, and you can mask some of his training, but are you training for a world's strongest man, or are you training to be the best version of yourself?
Well, my point of bringing all those guys up is to say, like, it's not realistic to compare. That's why I think it's important to listen to guys like us. It's not realistic to compare yourself to the bodybuilders, the big competitive, high-level elitists, because you're not them. You're just trying to be the everyday average person. That's why I think what we do really comes into play here, to say, like, don't stop comparing yourself to the elite and do what works for you. Find the person, find the target of a person like what we do. It's obtainable. It's realistic.
True. But with the elites is be motivated by them.
Yeah, of course.
Take it like some of them have really good training. Like, look at their training. See if that's something that's adaptable to what you do. You don't have to pull a 1,000-pound deadlift, but you could do some of Eddie Hall's deadlift workouts where he systematically increases the weight and then systematically decreases the weight. You could do that workout in your range. You get a lot of benefit from it. So, but you always got to bring it back to where you are.
Which I used to say to Sam whenever, like, when I was trying to get back on my journey and I was working in the corporate world and I was constantly busy, stressed with work, etc. I used to say to her, like, look, I love Arnold and The Rock and all these, like, famous celebrities that we knew were in fantastic shape, and I would say they're awesome, but they're not living a life that's comparable to me or realistic for me. Show me the everyday dad who's working 60 hours a week and how he stays in shape. He's a guy that's got the 3 kids, he's married, he's working, crazy hours. Show me that guy. What does he do to get in shape? Well, I think that's where we come. Realistically,
is even the Rocks. I mean, again, the guy's a movie star. He's got a lot of money behind him. But there's guys like Paul Skylar. There's guys like Judd Nelson. Right? These are guys who are the average guys who are doing it on a daily basis with a lot of time. They segued from doing that into now full time being online, being influencers, selling programs, which is probably where we're going to go at some point. But the realistic standpoint is it is doable for a guy who works 60 hours a week. It is doable for the average dad. It's doable for everyone who's average. Where you kind of have to draw the line is you have to look at a guy like Eddie Hall. Eddie Hall was doing strongman. He was in the world's strongest mechanic, man, and he was working as a truck mechanic, working 60 to 80 hours a week. So, and he still did it. So there is a lot of lessons to be taken from these guys and to relate back to you because they are relatable. The important part is to be realistic about how you start and which programs to go. Do I go do CrossFit? Right. CrossFit applied the correct way in the correct form for the person who enjoys it. It's great.
Some could argue that our cross training is CrossFit, but it's not.
Yeah, but it's a little bit heavier, but it's the same thing. CrossFit is a lighter, more cardio-driven version of strongman.
One of the things that bothers me with CrossFit is like most of them, then you see their workout of the day. They do it for time. A lot of their workouts are like for 20 to 30 minute things. So if you're a guy that has 20 to 30 minutes only, it does make sense sometimes to do that. But you're just at a higher risk of injury.
Some of them are fantastic. Where the problem comes in, and it's not just CrossFit. The problem comes in with bodybuilding too, is when people see these workouts, bodybuilding movements or standard gym movements are pretty standard. When I say standard, they're standard. It's a push, it's a pull movement, squat. You can hurt yourself in them. When you start doing CrossFit, these guys are doing very complex Olympic movements, like a snatch and press, or a snatch. Those are Olympic level movements. The chance of injury on those movements is very high.
Well, some of the things that they have their little, I don't even know the technical terms, but they're rings that they'll do these like swinging pull-up things. To me, like, they're so stupid with some of the movements. They make the injuries that have to happen on those I can't even imagine. Well, or when they swing themselves up on top of the pull-up bars. Like, to me, the muscle up. There's so many people that try that stuff and hurt themselves. It's just an unsafe act, in my opinion.
Again, unsafe if you haven't gone through the process. But in the same breath, the guys who do CrossFit, who understand the movements, who have worked around them, they're fantastic athletes. Some of the best athletes in the world.
I don't disagree. They're great athletes.
But again, if you're an average person trying to get into workouts and you're going to go and try and do these highly complex movements, you're going to hurt yourself. In the same breath, could you walk into a gym and do an average bodybuilding workout? Of course you can. My point being is you have to kind of see where you are. So, I had a recent discussion with someone who wants to get into an exercise program. He's on the older side. and tons of injuries, got some back fusions. I said to him, what you want to do is you want to try DDP yoga first. Right. Why? Because it's going to maximize stretches. It's good intensity. It's going to get you on your ones. Once you've gotten to a certain degree with DDP yoga, then what can happen is now you can start a gym workout, because now you've kind of overcome some of the issues that happens with this. Now, DDP yoga was designed by Diamond Dallas Page.
Yeah, actual DDP.
Right. The yoga has saved people's lives. I mean, he's got a 5-minute video of a guy who was he was a parachute specialist from the Air Force, and he was in his 30s, and this guy couldn't walk. He was walking with crutches.
Wow.
Was completely in on DDP yoga. He helped him personally, got him up and running. It took him a while, but you see the end of the video. This guy lost like over 100 and 200 pounds, and started sprinting.
Wow.
So the point being is, depending on where you are, what your injury rates are, there's a whole bunch of ways that you can kind of guide it. And having people, I'd like to think that what we're going to do is we're going to try and find solutions that maximize what your outcome wants to be. Not saying going to the gym and get under a bench press. That doesn't work for everybody. You've got to try and find those things that really change. Our training methodology, so if anyone's interested, how we train is, we've got a standard setup of how we do our body parts. Legs twice a week, because I think you need to really emphasize leg strength, because as you age, it's one of the first muscles that atrophy, so you're going to try and keep those legs as strong as possible. Drops all-cause mortality at a high rate, so legs is prioritized twice a week. And then we fill in all the other gaps, right? So you have a back day with a little bit of biceps. You have a shoulder day with a little bit of chest. You have a chest day with a little bit of triceps. Right, and in between those, we do these cross-training sessions.
And we always have an arm day.
Right, and the cross-training sessions are designed to maximize carrying weights overhead and then pushing and pulling. Why are you doing that? Because the overall effect on your body is so dramatic when you do those movements that you get a much better, your grip strength goes up, your ability to walk. It's one thing to lift a weight and walk with it.
Yep.
Right. Have a sled, and don't just put 100 pounds on and push. Really put 400 pounds and push.
The 120-pound dumbbell last week. That actually really surprised me on how well I handled that.
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily, I didn't know what to expect.
Right, and for context, what we did is you pick up a dumbbell, right, and we picked up a heavy dumbbell, 120 pounds. The idea being is you're picking something up that is half your body weight, because you should be able to carry and walk with your body weight reasonably comfortably. So what we did was 120 pounds, half our body weight. You pick it up, you hold it in one hand, and you use the other hand for balance, and you walk across, switch hands, walk back. Now, it seems like a simple movement, but it's really good for your core. It's really good for your spine. It helps your body realign. Doing that, farmer's walks, overhead carries, anything that requires a lot of effort to pull outside of standard movements is going to give you a high level result back. So in between these weight workouts that we do these high level cardio workouts. Now, these workouts, we don't stop. You go from one session to the other session, one movement to the other movement. What it causes then is I'm now doing a high stress, high weight interval training system, which incorporates HIIT.
And what did you say our heart rate was, like 160 to 180 most of the workout?
It ranged between 135 to 170, right? So you're between the lines, and that's essentially a HIIT workout. But it comes a lot quicker because you're adding weight to it. So your muscle gets the weight. You get all the benefits of that. So we range that out. When we go do a weight workout, sometimes I think once every 3 months we'll focus on going really heavy. But generally our weight workouts is we're doing 5 to 6 sets with 2 warm-up sets. And we're trying to aim for 25 reps while systematically keep increasing the weight. Right, and I'm trying to still get 25. The minute I get to 15, I'm too heavy. I need to either go lighter or I need to focus on my form. The reason you do that is you run that for 5 exercises, and in between those sets, we don't rest. You get off, I get off, we go. So I don't give a lot of time for recovery. So my muscle gets the maximum amount of stimulus I can possibly give it in the shortest amount of time. Now, does that say that's the only thing that works? No, it's the thing that works for us. The results that we've gotten from applying this is, 1, we've had minimal to no injuries, right? We've managed to maximize muscle. We've picked up muscle while we're doing it.
Definitely.
We've dropped body fat while we're doing it. We've increased our cardiovascular health through the roof, where the point is we went and did an hour of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and hardly broke a sweat. Right? We breathed through that. We were sweating our asses off, but I didn't feel like I was taxed at any point.
Conditioning was solid, yeah.
So conditioning is really good, and we're moving our bodies in dynamic ways, right? We're picking up, we're carrying heavy things at different points. So that works for us, and I feel like anybody over a certain age, once you get to a certain level, you're going to have benefit from us. We've got a young guy like Carmen who's in his 20s. He finds a lot of benefit from it.
Is he in his 20s?
Yeah. So these are the things that really kind of make the difference. However, there's 1,000 different ways you can apply training. How I want you to approach it is approach it from the standpoint. I want to maximize results, minimize injury, work around the injuries I currently have, because we'll all have injuries at some point.
Yeah, I want to spend some time on that.
And then what we want to do is we want to find dynamic ways to ensure that we move our body in every way possible so that we have mobility, right? You should be able to squat down to your haunches and stretch out. You should be able to do jumps. You should be able there shouldn't be a lot of things you shouldn't be able to do unless you are restricted by a massive injury that stops you from doing it. If you have an injury that stops from doing it, you can work around the injury and incorporate exercises to strengthen that injury.
Yeah, I think injuries become excuses for people. And then what happens with injuries, and I live this, where you blame it and then you take rest to try to heal or recover from it. And that time off, it gets you out of your routines. It gets you out. Like, I know guys that have had, like recently, had rotator cuff surgery or arm kind of surgeries. And they even go so far as to say, well, I guess it's going to be leg days a bunch for the next 6 weeks or however long it is. So it's the idea that they didn't stop training even though they got a surgery or something major that went on. Like one guy actually, it was his bicep he tore. And the whole point is like we all have injuries. Yeah. Everybody has things. And I mean, things again, come up.
You have an injury. There is a point of time that you have to rest, and there's a point of time of recovery. But there's a point of time where recovery means moving.
Yeah.
And wise words from a friend of mine who trains at EOS here in Brandon, right? Courtney. Courtney's 67 years old. Looks fantastic, right? And best advice he ever gave me. He said to me, whatever you do when you in training, never ever stop training. It goes through sickness, through health, through good days, through bad days, because it's like a marriage. Make sure you get to the gym and have a workout. Even if you're coming in here and you just ride the bike for 10 minutes, just come in and do something, because that has been my key as someone who's in 67 in phenomenal shape. We're talking about a guy where you see him, you won't believe he's 67, and he looks fantastic. You know, muscles are popping, everything looks great. He says, the only thing I can give you is do not ever stop, regardless of what's happening in your life.
Well, I think too, it's like things in life are addictive. Not training can become addictive really fast because it's just easier not to train. Same with sugar. Sugar is addictive. So you start you fall off the diet and you have a snack that leads to another snack and another, and you just like days on end go by, and it's hard to overcome that quote addiction because it's comfort. It's dopamine rush and hits. Yeah. And it's the same idea with not training. It's easy to get off the horse because if you don't do something right. So to me, I take off days when my body warrants it. I don't like to take off days though, just because I like to go train, but I also know that deep down inside, like I don't ever want to stop training. So for me, going just keeps me rolling. Like I just like to do something. Even on the days that I do something, I still move my body somehow. Like even yesterday, I got steps in.
There's the therapeutic part of it as well, right? So you know, you have to learn, as you say, you need to learn to apply rest, right? But rest is not systematic. So I wouldn't accumulate to say to someone, well, train 6 days a week and have a rest day. Some weeks are going to be really good and you can train 7 days a week. Some weeks are going to be more challenging. You might need to take a couple of days off. You need to learn to tune in with your body, right? But don't be a bitch. Yeah. Like tune into your body in a way that you're going to get the maximum out of it and be honest with yourself, right? It's not the day where I just don't feel like, oh, you know, 2 days is a good day for rest day. We're talking about the days where you can feel like my body's run down. Yeah. I've had a little bit too much. I need to take a step back. I need to take a bit of a rest day, increase a couple of calories, and then maybe just go for a walk.
Well, the guy that's joined us, I won't say his name, but one of the things to me in the beginning, and this is what I did, but basically I suggested to him, like, you need to throw that vest on and walk on one day. That's your day's activity. And the next day it's going to be push-ups and sit-ups and squats. Yeah. And then come weight train with us one day. But like every day should be something for a few months to get into the habit of this is a non-negotiable. You have to make this a priority.
Yeah. And I'll take a step in, you know, the doing 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups 100 squats a day. It's a bare minimum. You know, Ric Flair, as I always said, is a great epitome to this. This is what he does every single day of his life. Guy looks phenomenal for his age, right? And he's super healthy. He's had health issues, but who doesn't? But he's
a heavy partier
mobile. Yeah, so heavy. Yeah. But he's a mobile guy, right? So you want to do these things every single day that fundamentally work in your favor.
Right.
You know, even the days when, if I can't get to a gym, I'll do push-ups and sit-ups, and I'll do some squats, right? And trust me, you do 100 squats, you're going to feel it. You do 100 push-ups, you're going to feel it. You do 100 sit-ups, you're going to feel it.
I mean, in the hotel, I've done workouts like that. Like, you can easily do a quick medley in the hotel room. You don't need a gym.
Takes you 10, 15 minutes. You get it all out the way.
Burpees. You can do burpees.
You've got a day, right? And do you want to do it? No. But fundamentally, it's choosing the hard things now to have the easy things later, or choose the easy things now and have the hard things later.
Well, and because of the age that I'm at and people around me, like I'm around those that are elderly, and you see those that didn't take care of themselves, and watch how hard it is for them to move around.
Yes.
Watch, like, what's their biggest fear? Falling
and hurting themselves.
Yeah. So, like, I see this, and I see people in my life, loved ones that I care about, that are struggling to go from place to place, even just being able to help them in the vehicle and down out.
Yeah.
If you, like, and whatever, like, we all choose our life, but, like, to me, choosing to train, choosing to continue to be in the gym, like, who was the guy you sent the video last week? It was like 75, and he was showing his legs on the video.
Yeah, Tom Platt.
Tom Platt, that's who it was. Like, the dude's 75 years old and looks better than most 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
Like, he looks incredible, right? Yeah. So it's the idea that the guy never stopped training, and he's always placed his wellness as a priority. Yeah. And that's the ticket. Like, even this guy that we were just talking about a second ago, one of the things we said to him today, or you said, even if you have 30 minutes, go in there, hit some dumbbells.
Do something.
Do some kind of training.
Just move and get going, and then create a habit out of it. And that, it's... When things are going well, it's easy to keep a habit going, right? Everything's going well. As we talked about in the last podcast, you know, when everything in life is consistent, then consistency is consistent. It's easy, right? You can apply it easily. It's when life takes the knocks, you know, things kind of fall in. Your schedule changes, this changes, that changes. This is the time when you have to really put that work in. And choosing your exercise routines is as important. You know, in a gym, you want to, you know, you can get as much value out of doing a push-pull routine. So a push-pull routine is one day I do a whole range of push exercises, upper body, lower body. Another day I go and do a whole pull routine. You could do a full body workout and, you know, do a little bit of leg. There's so many variations of what you could do, right? There's a good study that came out from I think Atia put out. He's one of the scientists who looks at longevity and exercise, and you can get as much benefit. Let's say you work a 12-hour shift, right, and you have a pull-up bar. And what you do is, throughout the day, the same way as I would spend an hour in the gym doing these exercises, I spread those exercises through an entire day. In the morning, I go, I do a couple of bicep curls. I rest to go through my day, I work, and then I do some pull-ups. Rest to go through the day, I do some sit-ups. I rest to go through the day, I do a couple of squats. And they, you know, based on the end, you still got the workout in, right? It's a slightly different variation, but you're still getting the benefit of it. So this particular podcast, what I'm trying to get to everybody is, you're going to have everybody throw you with 1,000 different ways of how to do something, right? None of them are right and none of them are wrong.
Yeah.
Right? They're just a version that you have to go through to find what works for you. Now, there's a couple of versions that people have systematically said this is the best way. It's not. It's just the most popular way.
I like to take the approach on my social media. Like, I'm active, but I'm not the most incredibly active person. But whenever I share things about health and fitness, I never come at it from a place of you should do this or you have to do this. I say what I've done, what my experience is, because I know that I'm not the end all be all. I'm not the only one. Same with you. There's plenty of other people out there. We just had a vegan on our podcast. Like, we don't align with that, but we respect it. Yeah. The idea is that you have to figure out what works for you. Follow that person that gives you that good knowledge and input or advice, and do that. But know that, like, just because if somebody says this is the only way, well, that's not the truth.
I'd walk away from that. Like, there's so many different ways to do it. Also, we live in the information age. It's 2025. Yeah. There's 7 different AI systems on there, right? And I'll just use one, Grok. Yeah. Grok.com, on the free version. Go into Grok and say to Grok, I am a male / or female this is my age.
I've done this.
This is my exercise level. This is what I have done. I'm just about to start a new program.
Yeah.
This is the goal I want to achieve. This is how I want to achieve it. I'm looking to do this within a realistic time frame. Suggest a time frame for me. Break me down a exercise that's going to be this long, how much time you have in the day, this many days a week, how many days you're willing to apply it. And push that go button.
Yeah.
And it'll break down an entire program for
that
you.
works.
Right. And that program will work if you follow it, right? Because it's pulling information, because it's going to give you it based on your personal, you're going to give it a personal layout of who you are and what you want. And it'll lay it out for you.
And you also don't overcomplicate it.
No, that's
I think
such
too
a
many
good point.
people do that. Like, people get like sucked into this idea that like if you ask me, what we do is really, really simple. It really is. Like, it's not rocket science. Like, there's no like special sauce or equation that makes it difficult. Like, to me, it's the consistent action that you take. But if you overcomplicate it, it's going to be overcomplicated. Like, I hear people talking about counting macros, and you have to count this and do that. Like,
there's space for that, but you don't have to.
If you want to count macros, if that's how you want to go about it. But if you're just like, I forget who this lady was. She actually is a specialist when it comes to men. She's spent like most of her career like helping men with testosterone and health and wellness and stuff. And anyway, she was saying how she's like, I get more clients that come to my way that these are men that have gone to coaches, health and fitness coaches, that'll say, you know, basically, I was told I can't have my protein shake, or I can't have certain things. And she's like, well, are you going to be a bodybuilder and like get on a bodybuilding stage? And they're like, no. She's like, okay, well then let's figure out what you like and what works for you, and let's let you have those things that fall within your wheelhouse. But the point is, like, she's like, I'm a dad going out to my kid's soccer game. I don't want to take all my meal preps out there. Why can't I take a protein shake? Yeah. Stuff like that, where it's like you have to find what works for your lifestyle and what works for you, and don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah, and I mean, in not overcomplicating. Make sure you get enough protein in, right? What's enough protein? It's a very, very here or there, but generally 1 gram of protein for 1 pound of body weight.
I personally, though, will take the based on my personal experience and what my body does, and I actually just had a conversation with the guy that's joined us. I'm a proponent of, to lose weight, eating in weight training is a great approach, meaning eating smaller meals multiple times a day, eating 5 to 6 times a day, I think is going to get the body going the way you need it to. Yeah. I like that approach personally. I know there's a lot that have intermittent fasting. I've done it. You've done it.
Works as well.
Works too. But like, again, like, go with what your body responds to, and then stick to it. And then,
and that's the second most important thing.
Yeah.
Once you have a routine, don't get on it for a week. Or I don't see any changes. Give the thing at least 2 months.
Well, here's the other thing. Like, You paint a wall, right? It doesn't dry in 5 seconds. It takes time for the wall to dry. Yeah. Okay? Maybe this is a bad analogy, but the idea is like, take a picture of day one, and then don't get on the scale or take another picture for another month. Yeah. Follow the same pattern for that month. Yeah. Then take a picture at that 30-day mark. Yeah. Look back at picture number 1 and see the improvements. Yeah. Do the same thing. Just keep repeating that. But these aren't changes that are just going to happen overnight. No. This is a journey. This is a lifestyle. Yeah,
it's
not a destination. It's not It's not. You're not obtaining results.
And you're never going to end off results. It's continuous. It's always moving. It's always changing. It's always goal setting, changing. Goal setting, changing. And the next important thing is, once you find an exercise program, is one of the reasons that our workouts work, right? That we enjoy them so much, is we make them fun, right? We go in, we have camaraderie, we challenge each other, we literally go in there. I'm going into a place for an hour to 2 hours with my best friends, challenging each other, doing something that is the most manly thing you can do, is picking heavy shit up and putting it back down, and picking it up again. Yeah. And I'm doing that with people I enjoy spending time with in a format. Now, what we don't do is we don't dive into. We're not there. This isn't social time. Right. We greet each other, we go in, we're there to have a workout. So everyone's mindset's the same. But then we go in, and those workouts are absolutely fantastic. We enjoy them. There's an enjoyment factor. We get out. So also, once you start getting into this, find a workout partner. Find someone who shares the same values, the same outset, what they want to achieve in there. Try and find someone to go. You train a lot better when you do it in a group.
Accountability too.
Yeah. It helps you just take everything you're doing and push it in. If you're someone who can only train, there's years that I've trained alone. That's great. But in the same breath, I get just as much out of training with people. And I don't need to train with someone that's bigger or stronger or can do more than me. I need to train with someone that wants to achieve similar things to me, because we're going to push each other.
Yeah.
There's going to be camaraderie. We're going to enjoy the layout. We're going to be able to have conversations and text messages and go, hey, we did this today, and tomorrow we're going to do that. And we can start collaborating with each other to get the best results as a group.
Well, I think a component, like we have the group thread of people that have joined us for workouts. Not everyone's active in there, but to me, there's a just, as men, we need to take our minds away from reality sometimes.
Yeah.
And those funny workout videos or GIFs or the just badgering, it's not like heavy badgering. It's just a little like lighthearted poking.
It's in South Africa, like we're just pulling the piss with each other and having fun.
Yeah, and we need that. Like, as men, we need that humor, that just escape from reality. Like, that's one of the things that, like, I saw a GIF where it was like showing a merry-go-round of a playground, and then it had a gym next to it, and basically said, "This is a kid's playground today." Yeah, or the man's playground today. Like, the gym is that, and I think, again, like you said, we go into it with people that we genuinely enjoy being around. Yes, I think too, when you go work out and smash weights with someone that you're friends with, there's an understanding of each other, where if you can come compete with us and you can hang in a workout with us, especially, my respect level for you quickly rises, because I know, I'm like, okay, you got some grit. Yeah, and it's not about how much weight you lifted. It's not about how much you did. It's not about outdoing anyone in reps. It's about how much effort you put in. Right. And there's a reason they call it brothers in iron. Right. There's the reason for it is because we're there to support each other. Mm-hmm. It's not about who picks up the most weight. It's not a competition against each other. We're supporting each other in our competition against ourselves. You versus you. It's us versus us, but the guys around you are rooting for you and pushing you on, and you want to get to the next rep. There's no enjoyment I have more than bringing someone in, right? I had Carmen Musso with me on Sunday, right? We're doing a cross-training workout. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's 80 pounds lighter than me. And I'm watching him start moving weights around, and he's close. He's strong. He's efficient, and he's moving them at a good rate. And I'm not going, oh, he's moving this. I'm looking, oh my God, that's amazing. I'm standing behind and clapping hands. Let's go. Because that's the motivation you want. It's not about what he does. Right. And I'm not competing against him. I'm there to support him in his competition against himself. Right. And he's there to support me in my competition against myself. And then we create this collaboration in this group where we just push, pull, and make sure everybody is on point. And I think that's an important factor in this. Your journey is going to be a lot better when you create a community and you dive in with each other and you enjoy the factor and you start getting into the mindset of it. I'm thinking about a conversation I recently had with someone. Again, I'll protect the individual, but if you had somebody in your life who is extremely toxic and negative energy, you would not want that person in your life. So you're going to annex them out of your life, and you're going to be alone, right? And to me, sometimes in life, like, we have to let people go. I've heard somebody refer to it as social contracts. So sometimes those social contracts aren't going so hot. And if you have think about it like this, like, I know another person who's like, I really want to get healthy. I really want to stop drinking. I really want to stop doing this. However, my family, every gathering that we have, every time we get together, if I'm not partaking, they're like, he's the fun guy, because when he drinks, he gets a little let loose and has just fun and makes everybody laugh. But if he's not drinking, he feels like he can't be that guy. And I'm like, but you can, because he's associated alcohol with his personality, which is not. So, but in his mind, he thinks, well, I can't. It's his family, so he can't break those contracts. And they're good family. They're a good family, good caring people. So I understand. He's like, well, what do I do? I'm in this predicament. I'm like, go be that same guy without alcohol. Go be that same guy without the shit food. Because to me, like we don't drink. We talk about this often. I like the taste of a beer. I do like a beer, okay? And I like dark beer. But it doesn't fit into my equation. So for me, if I work hard all week long, and then to me, I'm ruining that hard work and that discipline that I put in my body all week with alcohol. So therefore, there's no place in my life for that alcohol. Yeah, it doesn't fall in line with my objectives. The gain from the alcohol
the benefits and the benefits and the risks
It's
are way
just
out.
they're not there.
They're just not there. It just doesn't make sense.
So for me, like, I just decided, and I used to be that guy too, who thought to go to a social function, I have to have alcohol to loosen up and relax. It took me a few months to finally realize. I think it was probably realistically 6 to 12 months before I was like, I don't need that alcohol to be like myself.
It doesn't define who you are.
Right. On Saturday, we went to a kid's birthday party. Everybody was drinking. Didn't have a drop. I was
Made
fine.
no difference.
I had a great time.
Yeah.
Had a great
Made no
time.
difference because
Made no difference.
It doesn't define who you are.
Right.
And these, you talk about the social contracts is, as everything in life, there's a season for everything, including people, right?
Yeah.
Some people are meant to be in your life for the long haul. Some people have a season where they come in, they go out.
Yeah.
You have to be okay with people coming in and leaving. You also have to be, you're talking about family is no one is exempt from being cut out of your life if they are toxic to it.
I agree.
Right? No one.
Yeah.
And you have to surround yourself with like-minded people. And when I say like-minded, I don't mean you don't want to surround yourself with people who just blindly agree with you. I like surrounding myself with people that question and ask questions, and we have discussions about what we do. Right? Why? Because you may have 7 different outlooks on something that I have one outlook on. And I want to be able to disagree with you on it because you might enlighten me on a better way or route of doing something. And I might not follow that route, but if I'm not open to listening to you and having a civil discussion of how you do something. You made a good example. We had Danelle and her husband in here, right? Their lifestyle, I will never follow what they do. It does not stop me from respecting the fact that they do, having a conversation, having a better understanding. Now I feel very confident that if I speak to anybody who comes to me and goes, I want to try veganism, then I can go, okay, great. Explain to me where you are. What's your blood type? My blood type's AB. Good. That's more in line with the vegan grains. How do you do with meat? Meat's not really good for me. Great. Makes you feel a little bit ill. Yeah. What about chicken? Chicken's not too great. Fish? I don't like fish. Good. What do you like? You know what? I like lentils and I like beans and I feel really good when I eat it. Great. You know what? There's this book from this vegan that we had on, and they gave us this great insight. You should have a look at her book and see how you can. Here's a resource. Here's a resource we have. You might find some value out of that, right? Because who am I? Like I said when we sat with them, is who the hell am I to tell you what you should and should not eat?
I mean, to be honest with you, they blew my mind with how in tune with their lifestyle they were. Not that I was surprised, but just knowing that, like, there's a lot of people that'll just they'll watch a documentary and they'll say, I'm going to be a vegan and follow the diet. But they really invested time and research and energy into figuring it actually out. Yeah. And it makes sense.
And they figured out what works for them. Now, I'll be 100% honest, is I went to their restaurant, I had their food. It doesn't work for me. Yeah, still, it was delicious. And let me be very clear.
It tastes good.
It tastes amazing. Like, the food was so good. But it didn't work for my system. Yeah. I felt the bloating right afterwards. I didn't feel great. But again, I realized that was going to be part of it. But they were so good in how they explained that they've actually given me a new insight on respecting that. Because I don't like is I hate the them us. Right? This them us bullshit we do in society.
Oh, like the pronoun thing?
Right. No. Not they them.
Oh, all right.
But even in that, right, if someone chooses on their own terms, right, to dye their hair purple, to say my pronouns are they, them, I actually don't fucking care. Like, that's you. If you live your best life, right? If a dude decides that he feels,
I don't really have a place for you in my life, but whatever.
Yeah, but that's the next point, right? So if you decide that I'm a man and I feel like a woman, great, go wear a dress, However, do not bring that and force that into anyone else's space.
I agree.
Right? That's the point where I draw the line. But if that's who you're comfortable being, and that makes you the best version of yourself, and you're not doing it to hurt another human being, to push your values on someone else, or to try and stamp on someone else's values, I'm all for it. I'll be the first supporter for you. That's a very thin line to draw, because very often what happens is, even on veganism, right? Even on people who follow carnivore, is you usually get the cult following that follows behind, right? The people that say, this is the only way, and anyone else who does anything other than I do is wrong, right? When you do that, you will alienate most of the population immediately.
Yeah.
Because that's not how society works. Is if you are on a carnivore diet, I'm on a carnivore diet, it works very well for me, right? it doesn't mean that I'm going to tell everybody around me that you're an idiot for not following a carnivore diet.
Yep.
That is just bullshit thinking that is going to get, that is the reason that we have such a discourse in society.
Yeah, I agree.
Same thing on veganism side, right? There's a place for everybody, right? We live in Tampa. You go just outside of Tampa to Brandon, super conservative, right? You go a little bit further out of Tampa, super conservative, even a little redneck. You drive up to St. Pete's and Clearwater, super woke, right? However, for the general population, good people, right? I want to go.
California was like that. Like when I went to California, I was expecting, well, it's the land of liberals. It's going to be nuts. I don't know. But there were some of the nicest people. Like now there's some ideologues and political stuff that I was blown away that you would support and believe in. But at the end of the day, they were all wonderfully nice people. I didn't have a bad experience, right?
And that's the point you got to focus on.
Which I do want to tie back into the idea that like men need community. And when we talk about these training programs and when we've invited people to come join us to train, I'm really looking forward to what we're about to start, where there's going to be a physical meetup of people.
Yeah.
Men need other men that are like-minded individuals, but also better than them in where they want to go and things that they want to achieve.
Bounce
and
information
I think
off.
when you bring a room full of men, like high-powered men together, successful men that are in pursuit of always being better, iron sharpens iron, right?
Yeah.
To me, the idea is that we're bettering each other. You're good at stuff. I'm good at stuff. I'm bad at stuff. You're bad at stuff. I'm not hopefully bad at the same thing you're bad at, and vice versa. Like it's the idea that hey, I can come to you and be like, hey Jay, this is what I'm dealing with. Can you help me? Share
information, share ideas, give different viewpoints without worrying about judgment or going and see where it leads out. Because the best conversations I have, one of the reasons we started the podcast, and I can give a shout out to my partner Mike in Canada, is we sit and we have these in-depth discussions from everything from politics to science to economy, everything, right? And we're not on the same page with everything, but we can sit and we can have a very deep discussion. And generally what I get out of that is he gives me an insight of how he sees things, right? Then I will add my perspective to that, and then we'll have a look at on the overall. But the point being is, by doing that, right, we have these insanely intense conversations, right? If someone from the outside saw our conversation, they think we're about to just pick up fists and fight, but we're not. We're kind of very, very, very vocally and very engaging in a conversation. But every single one comes up with a new perspective, right? And he gave me perspectives on a million things because his entire lifespan of where he is different to mine. Yours is different to mine.
Yeah.
So perspective is a very important thing. And what you want to do is you want to share perspectives on certain aspects. And here, it doesn't mean to follow it, but sometimes, and I mean, when I say sometimes, we are lucky enough to have surrounded ourselves with extremely smart, motivated, driven individuals.
Yeah.
On a daily basis, just on the average, talking to the people that I have in my circle now, every day I find a nugget of wisdom every single day from someone.
Yeah. Well, I think in the United States it's a two-party system, but like a healthy debate is good for the movement forward. So
100%.
You and I always agree on every little thing. And to be honest with you, we do agree on a lot of stuff. So having someone that doesn't align necessarily with everything we have to say is a good thing, because it allows us to be challenged and think in different ways.
That's the point.
That bring out better ideas, and the best things come from disagreement.
Some of the best things I've seen recently, right? So we had Bill Maher
go
to the White House.
Well, and he was on Charlie Kirk too. I was watching some stuff with Charlie Kirk.
He was on Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was on his as well, right? But think about this, right? Bill Maher, who for the longest time,
I give that guy a lot of credit.
Bill Maher is exactly
with a lot of him, but
when you look at the Democratic Party, right? What you want to do is you want to follow his line, because his line is one, logical, but two, he doesn't just fall over for someone. It's not as if it's not as if he's become a MAGA wearing crazy, right? He's not the extreme right version or the extreme left version.
But if memory serves me on him, he has been saying for quite some time, like, the liberalism of today is not what liberalism was supposed to be.
100%. But we're talking about a guy who's super liberal, right?
Correct.
But here's what I like about him. So he has criticized the living hell out of Trump, right?
Yeah.
And he's allowed to. That's the beauty of having a First Amendment, right? So what he does is, in the same sense, Trump doesn't back down from anything. So he's got a whole list of things that he racked out for Bill Maher. So what happens? Bill Maher, through Kid Rock, his friend Kid Rock, mutual friends of both Donald Trump and Bill Maher, says, I'm going to arrange for you to go have a dinner at the White House, right? So he goes, okay, I'll do it. Gets there, goes to the White House, right? Bill Maher brings out a printed list of every insult Donald Trump's ever said about him.
Nice.
So he can sign it for him.
Nice.
Right. At the same time, Chris Rock's not sure how this thing's going to play out. So he gets Dana White. He says, Dana, I need you to come with me. Just in case, you might break two guys up. Brings Dana White. Dana White gets a copy of it, and he's framed it. It's in his office at the UFC office in Vegas, right? Now, here's what happens. Bill Maher honestly goes, you know what? The guy I met's not the guy that I see on TV. And we had a great conversation. I have a new level of respect for him. That's what we need. Yeah. Sitting and watching him sit and talk to Charlie Kirk. And he's had a couple of very, very, very considered very right-wing extreme guys from the conservative side sitting and has these great conversations. Gavin Newsom was on Charlie Kirk's show.
I saw a little bit of that.
And what this is starting to look like to me is you're starting to see that people are realizing through long-form conversations that the best thing we can do is sit down and talk through our differences, have a discussion about it, see where we are, how we're doing this. How does this all relate back to training? It's simple. Whether it's training, business, relationships, you need to be able to sit down and look at something from a logical standpoint. You also need to have a little bit of intuition of how you apply it. You look at that training system and you go, okay, I cannot, as some people do, follow something blindly because a celebrity or an influencer or someone that I like is doing it. I need to look at what he's doing and say, what he does, are there pieces of it that could work for me? And will it work for me? Or am I doing it blindly because he's doing it? If you're doing it blindly, it's not the right path.
I think for me, like one of the things I'm hearing you go with here is like, I think back to my time in corporate when I wanted so desperately to get myself back into shape, but I was having such trouble with my schedule, and I felt like the only solution for me in my eyes at that time was to get the workouts in. I would have to be at the gym at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And I was at the time, I wasn't the best at early rising. So I was working late. I had kids. My sleep was horribly interrupted because screaming kids at night. So you're waking up at 4:30 to try to get to the gym, and you're freaking exhausted because literally kids are crying and like we're trading off or whatever. My point is this. You have to, like, you can't look at, I don't know a good example of the guy that gets up at, like Jocko. Jocko talks a lot about that morning routine and the 5 a.m. and like he's got his outline thing. If Jocko works for you, do Jocko.
Yeah.
But you also have to find, like for me, what works and what I have found, my lunch break, my quote lunch break, is my gym time.
Yeah.
Now I'm to a point now where I can get up early morning to go. But my gym time at 12 has made the most sense for me. That's the best time to go train, and I eat before or after or before and after, depending on. But it's the idea that I don't need a full-on hour for lunch. I can sit and eat my meal at my desk while working. Yeah. I can go to the gym and train during lunch, and then guess what? Like I've got it knocked out. It makes the most sense.
You found a workaround that works for you. When I was in corporate, I did the same thing. Is my personal aspect of this is when I did corporate, right? Unless I was prepping for a show where it was necessary to train twice a day, I would go train lunchtime. Why? Because work's hard enough as it is.
Yes.
And I need my sleep. And if I don't get enough sleep, I can't guarantee that I'm gonna have the best workout. But I know that if I get enough sleep and I've got that extra hour, I can get that in. Up at 6 a.m., out the door by 7, at the work by 8. 12 o'clock, get off, go do a 45-minute workout, shower, get back to work, and as you say, is eat in between. There's always a method that you can use to find the best route.
And I think I remember the sleep thing, you brought that up. Like, I remember almost feeling like it had to be this rite of passage for me to sleep 4 or 5 hours and do the grind, if you will.
Yeah, that's a bullshit analogy.
It is.
That was driven through by people. And again, it came from multiple different sources, but it was, sleep faster, sleep less, work life.
I've heard Arnold say that. Arnold has said sleep faster.
I'll sleep when I'm dead. Now, that sounds, in theory, you can say, well, that sounds good, but that's bullshit. And the end of the day is you're only as functional as how much rest you have. Right?
Yeah, you got to rest.
Now, if you are able to sleep in 5 hours and get the maximum amount of REM sleep, well, great, then maybe 5 hours works for you.
Like, there's a lot of influencers right now that are posting stuff that like 2:30 in the morning they're getting up to start their days and whatever else. In my opinion of those people is they have sleep on their insomnia.
Nah, that comes from Mark Wahlberg, right? What happened was Mark Wahlberg put out his routine a couple of years ago, right? So it's a copy.
Yeah, maybe so. But like, there's plenty of people out there that I'm seeing that they're posting, like they're out doing their morning routines at this absurd time.
Yeah, it's because they're copying an influencer.
Maybe. My whole thing is like, I think rest is one of the most important things we do.
Yeah.
Like I'm getting good sleep these days. I've been taking my supplements and of course for training and whatever else, and I've been sleeping better than I've slept in a long time. And to me, like that's years in the makings of me to get to this point, because I used to like stress about the idea that I stressed about a lot of stuff, honestly, like my marriage, my finances, my business. I used to stress about so many things, and like I've done a lot of deep work to get past that. But like, I don't know. I think this is a good episode. The training is a very critical component, and just do what works for you.
And again, let's go back to that influence you say where the guys are getting up at 2:30, 3 a.m., right? Where that started is Mark Wahlberg did a whole segment. He's part of F45 training, and he did an entire segment where he showed people his daily routine, right? So basically, he would be in bed by 7 o'clock at night, right? He'd be up at 3 a.m., a little bit earlier, and be working out at 3 a.m., then he'd answer emails, he'd go through this whole process. Now, here's the thing is, when he's at home and he's not shooting a movie, and that could be his routine. And for him, if he has a family, that routine probably works better. Think about this, right? If you didn't have the burden of having to work the hours you do, right? Because you have your own business, your business works within certain hour brackets. Okay, and let's say you didn't have that burden, right? And now you want to maximize your time with your family, knowing that your kids are going to be up, right? Now listen to his thought process. He's explaining in detail why he does it. My kids get up at around 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I want to spend as much time as I can with them. So what I do is, and they go to bed at about 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, as I'm sure your kids do as well.
Yeah.
Right. So now what does he do? He's now worked his day out to maximize his time with his kids. So what does he do? He goes to bed at the same time as kids, so he's out by 7 o'clock, right? He sleeps, his full sleep cycle, gets up at 3, 8 o'clock in the morning, training at 3:30. Between 4:30 to the time his kids get up, he works. Now, when his kids get out of bed, what can he do? He can spend the most amount of time with his kids without any distractions.
Yeah.
He maximizes the time. They go off to school, he works again. He does all the work throughout the day until his kids get home after school. Now he maximizes his time with his kids and his family till dinner time, and he goes to bed. All he's done is maximize his time so he can give the most to his kids.
Yeah.
The influencers are just copying it as if it's some sort of magical thing to copy, but he had a very good reason for it, and it works within his dynamic.
Yeah, and I get that. Like, I think my tune has changed a lot. Like, I was... you know some of this, but like I don't necessarily put it out there, but basically I've had I'll say this part. I've had an old boss try to recruit me back to him many times over, and I'm like, no, like for me, I'm not going to work 60-hour weeks anymore. Like, I'm not afraid of work. I'm not afraid of putting my grind. I don't even like to use the word grind. I hate the word grind because like that implies that I'm unhappy and not liking something, right? So that's something I see too. This is a little bit of a rabbit hole for me. I'm so tired of parents posting things about their kid grinding for their sport, or I see people that are doing workouts saying I'm grinding for something. Well, what the fuck are you doing it for?
They're following an influencer.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I totally agree. But it's like, you're not fucking grinding. You shouldn't be grinding. You should enjoy what you're doing. Because why are we here?
Yeah.
Why are we on planet Earth if I'm just fucking grinding everywhere I go?
But again, they're using the word because it's a popular word that people have used to associate with it.
To me, that's being a follower, not an individual. So, which that's a problem. I have a problem with that. But like, again, I say, you're not fucking grinding. Like, if you're playing a sport and you say I'm grinding all the time, well, then don't fucking play the sport because it's a game. I'm
very passionate about this.
Yes, because I was an athlete, dude, and you were too. Like, and you know what it's like to go down this path of like, I'm trying, like, you're playing a game.
Yeah.
You're not fucking grinding. You get to live life. Have gratitude. You get to go to the gym and train. You're not fucking grinding.
Yeah. But look at it from their perspective. They use the word grind, makes them feel better about it because
maybe it's for attention.
It could be for attention, but it could also be is because all the people that influence them use that as a key word of talking about how hard they work.
Or even just like when it comes to like meal plans and nutrition, like if you complain about eating healthy, then don't fucking eat healthy.
Yeah.
Be fat.
Well, here's the thing is, if you complain about anything on social media, you have a problem. Like social media, you should not be living a fake life on there, right?
Yeah.
It's a tool, right? So, there's a place for influencers. I think a lot of them do really good work because they put a lot of information out there, and they're changing the face of how people do exercise.
Yeah.
There's way more people in gyms doing exercises, and yeah, you get the weird ones in that are sitting there and putting a tripod up and get upset when someone walks past them, or the girls literally spreading their legs in their leggings and then getting upset if someone even looks at them, despite the fact that they put it all over them.
So stupid.
So there are some bad things that come with it, but on the most is we're seeing a lot more people going to gym. We're seeing a lot more people trying to live a healthier lifestyle.
Which is great.
And it comes with a lot of, like I say, is you're being influenced. So depending on how you take that information in, you've got to be very careful not to get sucked into don't become an NPC, a non-player character, someone who just follows a narrative that someone feeds to them and then blindly follows that.
Yeah.
Be the person that looks at this, takes it with a grain of salt, does their research, see if it applies back to them. And this goes for everything in life. When you're choosing an exercise program, when you're choosing how to move forward, be systematically conscious of what you're doing. Don't blindly follow. Why do you not want to? It's the same reason that you want to read the labels on the food you eat, right? You're putting something in your body, right? We can go even in something simpler. If you're rubbing something on your skin, you should read the ingredients, right? If you're going out for the day and it's really hot and you want to put on sunscreen, and some random I have some sunscreen, they give it to you. Are you going to put it on your skin? Like if some stranger said, "Here's some candy," you're going to eat it?
Or sunblock.
Like, look at the bottle. If you're going to wear sunblock, look at the bottle. What is in it? What am I putting in my skin? That's the thing, right? So you have to be cognizant of what you put in your body, what you put on your body. And this is the same thing of what you absorb when you watch. You need to curate your social media to get the most out of it. You also need to realize that this is an extension. It's not life. That's not real life in here.
My biggest thing, I guess we could kind of leave this one in this area, but like I personally have done so much deep work, and I know there's way more for me to do, but I've really truly overcome this idea of grinding.
Yeah,
I've overcome this idea of I have to do something. No, I get to do stuff. I have gratitude of like
you have the opportunity to do these things.
I think you could relate to this.
Yeah,
when you're faced with like the worst circumstances that you're going to lose it all, or it could all get ripped out from underneath of you, or you got nothing and now you have something, you change your perspective. When you truly find yourself in a place of like recognizing you're fucking wealthy beyond your means to wake up in this country each and every day.
Oh yeah.
To have a roof over your head, food on your table, the opportunities that are put in front of us. When you have gratitude for that shit,
oh yeah, life changes.
You're not fucking grinding.
Right. I agree with you. And it's the analogy. Life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you.
Yeah.
Everything that's thrown to you in adversity is an opportunity. Every way you look at it doesn't. And again, I'm not saying any of this is easy. We're human beings. We go through different stages.
It's
but
real hard.
You have an opportunity, right? Everything. You're not a victim. Stop playing victim in your life. Start. Be the hero in your own story.
Well, that's a whole Joe Rogan video on that one. But I think what happens with men, and this is again a community aspect of things. This is why I think training is so important, because men have this tendency of like, we have a million thoughts in our head and we worry about things. And when you can get to a place where like, if I can bring my worry to you versus my family, I'm better off because you can keep me solid mentally and emotionally. Yeah. And then I can be solid for them mentally and emotionally. And it's huge.
It's also disassociating worries, as we've always said, is, if you're worried about the future, you're worried about something that doesn't exist.
Right.
If you're worried about the past, you're living in something that doesn't exist.
And that's something that's been hard for me to figure out.
So, it's always a process. Like, there's some times where I'll find myself getting stuck and getting sucked into something, and then I have to consciously take 5 steps back. Oh, this is not how I want to engage with this. And then I have to disassociate myself with the two outcomes, which is either the past of what's happened or the future that hasn't happened. And I have to disassociate myself from those two entities and go, where am I right now?
Yeah.
And then what do I do? Where I am right now, I have two things. I have those things I can control, and I have those things I can't control. Those things I can't control, I have to accept what they are, put them aside.
Right.
Whatever that outcome is going to be is I can't alter it.
Right.
This that I can control, what can I do? Great, I can do these actions. Do them and let go. Because then what happens is you'll find yourself living the best moment instead of trying to live in moments that don't exist.
Yeah, totally. Well, and I think too, again, back to the sports analogy, I heard a Hall of Fame basketball player say he was comparing to like today's basketball era. They take a lot of days off because of injury or whatever else. And he's like, he goes, I never took time off. He played in the 80s. He's like, I never took time off. I got to play the game that I loved. Okay, so here's a guy that played 20 plus years, probably, or however, I don't remember how long he played in the NBA, but like he was a Hall of Fame basketball player, and he loved the game of basketball so much he didn't want to take a day off.
Yeah.
He wasn't grinding. He was playing and having fun.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my point is like, I don't care what it is in life. Like we go to the gym. I truly enjoy the gym.
The time.
It's fun for me, right?
Yeah.
So if the gym's not fun for you, but yoga is, go do yoga.
I agree.
If yoga, I don't like yoga. I don't want to do yoga. I'm not going to go do yoga because I'm not going to do it. So the idea is that do what makes sense to you. Don't fucking grind. I'm really passionate about this, obviously. Don't grind in life.
Yeah, if you're grinding, you're not doing it the right way.
If you're in a business, okay? If you're in a business that you fucking hate, and I'm kind of faced with this a little bit on one of my businesses. Don't, like, get out of it when you can.
Find a way to move. Find
a way to change. That's what we're doing. But, like, do it until you have no other option.
Yeah.
But then create an option so that you don't have to grind. Life is too precious. It's too short. Like, I got a guy that I know that I worked with who's 45 years old, killed by a drunk driver. Going to his wake here in a couple weeks. Life is too short and too precious to grind. Have fucking gratitude and go do what you want to do.
And those days you wake up, right, is, you know, you can listen to an extreme guy like David Goggins, right? And David Goggins talks about his inner bitch. He's used an extreme version that works for him.
Yep.
Right. I can tell you now, and I'd say this to probably everyone in the population, maybe 1% of the population. If you try and fucking do what David Goggins can do, you can die.
Yeah,
the guy is in what he does, right? He's found what works for him, and there's a lot of good things to take about it. He's got a couple of good analogies. You know, when you wake up, you can add that little voice. Don't listen to that voice. You know, get rid of your inner bitch. Those are kind of good takes. But if I'm going to try and do what he does, piece for piece, I'm probably going to die.
Yeah,
right. And that's not because I'm a bitch. That's because David Goggins. I'm not David Goggins.
That's right.
His goal set, what he wants out of life, how he does it is all different to mine.
That's right.
However, I can still take something from it and apply it to mine.
Oh yeah.
You need to find those mechanisms that work for you. As you said, if weight training doesn't work for you, find something that does. If something doesn't appeal to you, also you're going to get to a point that it is. If you fundamentally, as you said earlier, I just don't want to train. Okay, here's it. When we say grind, right, as you mentioned, grind is bad word to use. However, you still, based on how you want to live on a day-to-day basis, you might sit there, you might be sitting listening to us and go, I don't fucking like energy, I don't want to train. So now, based on what you guys said, I should just not train. No. You want to do something on a daily basis, right, so that you can feel your best version of yourself. Now, I can say as a 45-year-old, I don't get up in pain. I get up and jump up. I'm up and I'm out, right? And it's got nothing to do with anything magical I'm doing. It's because everything I do is designed to maximize my day.
Yeah.
That I feel my best.
I mean, I'm also going to say, like, all right, I said all this about grinding. At the same time, there's also going to be a component of you got to do some stuff that you may not be crazy about. There's a discipline factor.
Yeah, but I wouldn't call that grinding. The thing is, we spoke about it before, is generally, and this goes for life, business, training, you can apply it to almost anything. Those little things that you really hate doing, but make a fundamental difference, right?
Yeah.
So this was a good analogy that was put forward by a woman. She was talking about people who follow the ideas of, for instance, David Goggins, get up early in the morning, breath work, run, train, do this, do that, do that. You can do all of those things and ignore the real things that are important. Mm-hmm. The small things that make money, the small things that make a difference in your relationship, the small things that make a difference in your day-to-day. And you can ignore those, and you can do all of those things, and you're still a loser. You're not gaining any ground.
Right.
You're just doing all these things, and you're just doing them superficially. You do all of those things to give you the best platform of feeling your absolute best to go and tackle those little things, right? Is an analogy I'd use in the gym. I fucking detest lunges. Hate them. I've always hated them. I've never liked lunges. They hurt. They're uncomfortable, right? I don't like Bulgarian split squats. They are fucking uncomfortable. They hurt. However, I almost incorporate them into every single workout we do with legs, right or wrong?
Agreed.
Because I realize that if I don't like it, but it's effective,
growth,
I should probably fucking do it.
Yeah.
Now, the same thing in work, right? One of the most difficult things to get over, especially if you're trying to maximize your business, because when you get into business, right, is let's say you're selling furniture, right? You're making furniture to sell. Making furniture, that's your passion. Mm-hmm. I love making furniture, right? Making furniture is the easy part because that's already passion. However, in order to sell this piece of furniture I made, I know I have to do a whole bunch of things I'm probably going to hate. I have to do social media marketing. I need to create a website. I need to start speaking to people. I probably have to do a couple of cold calls, right? Regardless of your business. No one likes doing cold calls.
My friend, there was a SEAL, I've heard him say this. I'm assuming it's adopted in the SEAL community. Embracing the suck is their philosophy. And to me, they can be, and I've seen them, talk about this, but like they can be in the worst of conditions, and they're still smiling and happy.
Yes,
because they get to do it,
and they choose to,
and they chose. They chose it, right? And that's kind of my point. It's like in the end, I'm not grinding, even though I might have to do some difficult things. I do difficult things on the regular basis, but I'm excited. Like, imagine.
I don't perceive them as a grind. I perceive them as an opportunity that I take wholeheartedly, and I push it as hard as I can.
How much better do we feel after these like soul-crushing workouts that we've had? Like the cross training the past couple of days, I feel, or a couple of times, I feel like have been soul-crushing. Yeah. But they're the best fucking things ever because you walk out of there going like, hell yeah, I just did that. And I think like again, I don't, even in those workouts, even when I know we're doing those hard days, I really don't think about the end.
No.
Ever.
I focus on what I'm doing.
I literally focus like one thing at a time, one step at a time. I will admit there's been like when my shoes are fucked up, I've had some struggles with like how much harder I have to work on the weight, but I'm fixing that problem. But even then, I'm like, if I'm struggling to push it or something, I actually get angry at the fact that I'm having a hard time doing it. It pushes me that much harder to do it.
You're not thinking about the end or when this is over. You're thinking about what do I need to do right now to move this weight from there to here.
And I remember being in college, right, when we did some like just kick you in the nuts type workouts. I would literally be thinking like, God, how many more rounds do we have to go? This sucks.
When is this going to?
When's this going to end?
And the funny thing is, this is an experience lesson that you learn, right? When you start realizing is the more you focus, it's Murphy's law. The more I'm focusing on the end, the further the end is away. Right. It just feels like it's never going to come. We're so overly focused on it, right? Is the more I'm focused on what I need to do right now to get, in our workout, we've got to push a 600-pound sled from this side to that side, right? My mind is going, great. What do I need to do to push it? Great. I need to get it off the ground. I need to move my legs. I need to move them faster. I need to keep every step. Be consistent. Let's move.
Half the time with those sleds, I'm like, don't stop because I know it's harder to get started again.
Oh, dude, when we used to do strongman, right? Now, in the years where I did strongman, I was one of the smallest guys, weighing in at like 250, 260 against guys who averaged 300 to 350 pounds. And, especially when you do a truck pull, right? So truck pull is a massive semi-truck. Got a harness on, there's a rope in front of you, you start pulling. Now, the general rule is the more weight you have, the easier you get the truck going. And once it starts moving, you do not fucking stop. If you stop that truck and that momentum stops, dude, you trying to get that going again. And that has stuck with me for years of the amount of effort is once you have momentum,
you keep it going.
Right. Do not let that momentum go. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you have momentum and you are moving forward, do not fucking stop. Have it go forward. If you stop momentum,
I think that's a life lesson.
Yeah, and it applies to everything. I do this in almost everything I do.
Yeah.
If I have started gaining traction and I'm moving forward, I will do everything I can to not stop that momentum because I know if that momentum stops, there's a great chance of it failing.
Yeah, and I think that's a life lesson in general. Again, it goes back to this, like, if you're on this journey with us and you're listening to us, you're on this journey with us. We have a lot of momentum right now.
Yeah.
We have a lot of good shit happening in the right direction. I'm really excited for the future. However, I'm also really embracing the present because it's all I care about.
Yeah,
that's all that matters. Because I can only take action right now.
That's a good lesson right there.
And that momentum, though, just continues to build. And if you have gratitude versus like in this mindset to me, and I think we should like tie this episode up, but like this mindset of I get to do things versus I have to do things will change the game for you.
I choose to do it, and I choose to do it with happiness, with excitement, with vigor. I get up in the morning. I don't care how sore my body is from the workout of the day before.
Most of the time when we text about the soreness, it's like yeah, I'm pretty sore today.
Yeah, it's a badge of honor, right? Like if I wake up in the morning, I am grateful that I'm able to wake up knowing that I was able to do that to have this result today. Yes. I'm grateful that I can get up. I'm grateful that I live in the great state of Florida. I'm grateful that I live in the best country in the world, the United States. I'm grateful I can walk out the door, see this blue sky. I'm grateful for the great people I have around me that make me a better human being. I'm grateful regardless. I wake up to an amazing life.
Dude, like you experience it firsthand, like the problems that we have here today in this world, like think about people that live other places that don't have our problems. Their problems are way different.
But surprisingly enough is even in the worst shitholes that you can imagine, right? The places that you think are the worst. There's someone there embracing the suck, living their best life in a horrible place that we can't even imagine, and they're happy because they choose to be. That's and they wake up to be happy.
I agree.
There's a lot to be said for that. So, choosing an exercise program, don't be scared to find what works for you. Do your research. We're going to have we're very close, right? We've got a system. We're busy stuck on the name at the moment. Is sitting on Warrior's Edge. The idea being is that you can lock into a system where we'll constantly be putting up new workouts, new information, ways for you to try and engage, essentially to be the best version of yourself. But it's not put out there to say, well, this is the be all and end all. It's good, wide information that you can utilize and access, and you can start building your best life.
Yeah, people are going to come and go, but in the end, it's about taking tools from us to make yourself the best version of yourself you can be.
Applying guidance, not applying a rigid set that says you must. It's applying a guidance base that you can follow and choose to be your best.
And we're still figuring shit out too. Yeah. I think we're just a few more steps ahead.
The thing is that's probably the best part, because we're still figuring shit out. We don't stop researching. We don't stop experiencing. We don't stop looking. We constantly looking for better ways.
It's always a pursuit, and I want to be around guys that aren't ever satisfied.
Yeah, it's the never-ending pursuit of perfection.
That's right.
That's what we're looking for.
Thanks for listening.